there is no magic bullet for marketing. But what I'd like to talk about today is a process of thinking, a process of collecting information, a process of distilling key concepts and ideas and boiling all of that down to your core focus with your business. And once you kind of go through these processes and think about some of these questions that we have tonight, things start to unearth themselves and you start to discover, my audience is not all of Lee County. My audience is this little slice of Lee County. What is this slice of Lee County doing? What do they care about? What is their lifestyle like? You know, among this slice of Lee County, what do these people have in common? And how can I identify cost-effective ways and channels of reaching these people without having to advertise to all of Lee County, which costs lots of money? So, good questions. I think we'll be able to address most of these questions here tonight. So I hope this will be helpful for you all. I know that you've recently talked a little bit about marketing, from product and promotion and pricing and placement and that type of thing. I hope to expand a little bit on some of those concepts tonight. And I know that you've also talked a little bit about HR and hiring discussions, had some hiring discussions about, you know, when it's appropriate to bring on new people. And I have some reading suggestions on that as well, if anyone would like to talk about that afterwards. This is what I have tonight for our agenda. And like I said before, it's a little bit extensive. I'll talk a little bit more on some of these items than others. Starting off with research, talking about the product or service. I'm calling it product tonight, but it might be a service depending on, you know, what your business model is. And then your plan. We won't talk a whole lot about that because you all are talking about the plan, but emphasis on why the plan is important. And then brand. And I get all excited when I talk about brand, so we might spend a little bit of extra time on brand. And then the sales and distribution channel. A lot of people assume they know what this channel is, or they assume it's direct to consumer. There may be other variables and other opportunities in that distribution process that you might consider with alliances and that type of thing. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then promotions. And this seems to be consistently what you all want to talk about the most. So hopefully we'll be able to maybe even do some Q&A there and talk about some of your specific challenges with your business ideas. And then delivery. Once you do the promotion, you develop the business, you roll out the plan, you got to deliver. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk at the end of a little bit about budget and how to plan for and what to expect as far as a budget for marketing expenditures for your business. So any questions, any suggestions, any particular areas that you want to spend a little bit more time than others? Sound okay? All right, cool. Research. I don't know how much time you all have spent talking about research when it comes to marketing and developing your business plan. I don't want to be redundant, so if I start talking about something you've already been through, stop me and I'll move on. But this is where it all begins. The idea, the big idea. You don't just throw it out there without testing the concept. So research in our world is really, really important. A lot of times a client might come to us and say they have this brand new bell or whistle or whatever, and they think their customers are going to like it, and they want us to roll it on out there, and we ask questions. Well, who's the target? How are they going to use this? How is this bell or whistle different from one they're already using? Why is it better? Is it cheaper? Is it better? Does it do something that they need? And if the client doesn't have answers to those questions, we always suggest research. So you want to make sure that there is a demand for your product or service. So, and it's not necessarily in a B2C world where you're marketing to a consumer. Often these types of companies will say, well, I asked my mom and I asked my sister and my best friend. Well, don't talk to your family. Talk to people outside your world and get some real feedback from people who might be interested in your product or service. So talk to strangers. You know, just strike up a conversation with someone. If they're in a store and they're looking at a product that might compete with something that you're, you know, considering, ask them some questions about why they make decisions that they do about that product or service. And you can do this politely without, you know, infringing or offending people. But you could also maybe engage some friends to distribute some email surveys to people that they know who might fit the demographic of audience that might be interested in your product or service. And that way it's not coming from you, but it's coming from people that you know and trust, and you're getting objective third-party information and input. And that can be a really inexpensive way to do that if you can recruit some buddies, you know, tell them what you're looking for, tell them the type of audience that you're trying to reach, and get some information. knowing your market, knowing your landscape, the environment in which you're selling. Market different from target market. Your target market is the buyer, the audience. Your market is the environment that you're selling in. Who is your competition in this market? What are they doing? What are they selling similar to what you would be selling, and how are you going to do it differently? How is your product or service going to be unique in the market? So you have to understand your market. You have to know your competitors. You have to know their pricing. You have to know how they're different, how they're positioning themselves, because you certainly don't want to roll out a Me Too company and pretend like you're someone else, because you'll always be number two if you do that. So looking at your footprint, how far out can you realistically serve your target audience? Is this a geographic footprint? Is this an internet business? Logistically, what is your target? And it may be a virtual target, it may be a physical geographic target, but that's, those are things that you can discover as you're doing your research as well. Again, we talked a little bit about research and just talking to people. If you're considering a restaurant business, for example, you might talk to people and find out, you know, what their favorite restaurants are in town and why, and really probe into that why. Why do you like this so much? What do you love about it? Is it the food? Is it the service? Is it the atmosphere, the ambiance? Is it the price point? What is it that makes this place attractive to you? And what type of restaurant do you think this community needs? Is there a food service need that is unmet in this community? Identify that and see if it matches up with what you think you're prepared to provide the community with. And what have these other restaurants done that might be unique in the market and successful? So, for example, I don't know if you've been to, I can't even remember the name of it, but there is a restaurant that allows you to come in and choose like pieces of your meal, and they prepare it right there in front of you. Kind of a unique take on, I don't know if it's Chinese or Japanese, but you go in and you just select the things that you want to have in your meal, and then they stir fry it right there in front of you and serve it up, and it's just different. It's unique. And I can't remember the name. It's a franchise. No, it's a different one. It's a smaller place, but it's been very successful. I think it's more in metropolitan areas, but still it's unique. It's a different take on Chinese food. Right. So anyway, and then after you do your research, don't ever be ashamed to scrap your idea or evolve your idea. If the research says it's not going to fly, don't waste your time. But maybe you discovered some things in your research that validate parts of your plan, and you might need some refinement on other parts of your plan. So that's where research becomes really valuable. And I can say, you know, when we conduct research for our clients, typically 80% of the results are validation. 20% might be key learnings. They might be some new information. But as a business owner, you're going to have a really good gut about what you think is going to work. But definitely test it. Definitely take it to market and do that proof of concept in your marketplace. Talking again about your target audience, who will buy the product. There's so much you can learn about your target audience. And this is, now we're talking about market, your target market, not your market, but your target market. Who's going to buy your product? For example, if it's a martial arts studio, the parents buy, but the kids influence, don't they? So what you can do is what we call at Kelly Marcom a buyer influencer exercise. You identify your buyers, who will actually pay the bills, and identify your influencers. And then with each column, you go down and you determine what these people need to believe about your business, your product, or your service in order to decide to utilize it. And you can make a matrix out of it, and your marketing plans, your tactical plans fall out very easily from this, or your messaging. What do they need to believe? What do they think right now? What do you want them to do? And what do they need to think or believe in order to do what you want them to do? So, what are some of the catalysts that affect this buying decision, especially for a martial arts studio? It could be, you know, a reward for making good grades. It could be a decision that's made at the end of another sports season. It could be peer pressure. It could be a number of different influencers or catalysts that happen in that process. And then what do you know about these people? Where do they go? What do they do? What type of kids are they? If they're kids, they may be adults. What are common denominators among these people that are interested in your service? What do they like? What motivates them? And what else are they buying? This helps you discover their lifestyles, where they go, what they do in their lives, so that you can be where they are. And that's where you get into the creative ways to do marketing. If you can figure out, 90% of the kids in this town who practice martial arts also do these two other things over here. So maybe I need to be over there and not where it costs $5,000 a month to advertise. You know what I mean? So that's when you can start to think really creatively about how to get your message and your brand in front of people where they are and where they expect it to some degree. You want to get inside their heads and talk to them and observe them, their behaviors, what influences them. If the ultimate decision maker, the buyer, is the parent, how can you make their choice in choosing your studio an easier one to make? For example, think about what parents do while their children are in the class. Do they hang out there and watch? Or do they go run errands? Well, if the majority of them are hanging out and watching, what are they doing? Are they reading? Are they talking to one another? How can you make their experience a more pleasant experience while they're there? Now, this is still marketing. This is a customer experience. Even though the parent is not the student, the parent is paying the bills. The parent is making the ultimate decision about whether or not to send the kid there. So if you can make their process and their experience as pleasant as it can be, then you're one step ahead of that other studio down the street. So it's just smart thinking and creative thinking about how you can influence a decision-making process. We talk just a little bit about product. Now, I'm not into product development necessarily. I'm more of a marketing person, craft the message, sing the song, tell the story. But you'll know from your research if your product is what your market needs. And if it's going to meet all the needs, if it needs tweaking or refining, you'll know that from your research. But beta test your product. Once you figure out, yes, indeed, this is what I'm going to do, take it out to a focus group. And it could be friends of friends or people that you know that have expressed interest already, and test it. Let them experience it. Let them do a trial with it and feel it and live it and breathe it and understand it and give you some feedback on it. That will help you evolve your offering a little bit too. If they say the product is great, the pricing is a little high, product is great, pricing, you could charge more, they'll be honest with you. And they will appreciate the opportunity to give you the feedback too if they are truly your target audience. This is a great opportunity to collect case studies from research participants who have a wonderful experience with your product. Write it down, document that, because you can use it in marketing later on. And with a small business, I think in this era, you have to be marketing minded all the time. When you get a compliment from a customer or someone in the community, note it, write it down, keep track of these things because you can use them in marketing as long as you have their permission, of course, if you want to use their name. But always be thinking about leveraging opportunities to tell that story and support your story. You were talking a minute ago about how do I tell my story? No, it was you, Rachel. How do I tell people how I feel about my business? How do I tell them my story and why I'm doing what I'm doing? Part of that is testimonials and case studies and I helped this person how XYZ, and they were really pleased with the service, and this is why, and they'll see it in your face. They'll see it when you light up, when you talk about it, what it means to you. So really take advantage of those opportunities to capture that. It's just invaluable. And then be able to, and practice this, be able to clearly articulate how your product or service solves a problem for your customers in a unique and valuable way. And you'll discover what that unique and valuable way is when you're doing your research. But put some words to it. Put an elevator pitch together. This is my business, and this is what it does, and this is why it's unique and special, different from everybody else. Memorize it. Sing it. Put a rhythm to it if you have to, but just learn it and memorize it. So when somebody says, hey, Charlotte, what do? You know it. And it's the same every time. It's consistent. The next section I'd like to talk a little bit about is brand. This is one of the things that we spend a lot of time on at Kelly Marcon with our clients. We help them with research, we help them with strategic market planning, And then the brand part is kind of where the creative juices start flowing and where we take a lot of that information from the research and from our interviews with the company principals and focus groups and proof of concept testing for products and services. And we boil it all down into, and it's a lot of data, but we boil it down into probably 3 to 5 key top priority attributes, brand attributes. What are the most important attributes this brand offers target audience? And it takes hours sometimes to distill the list of attribute concepts down to 3 or 5. And from that 3 to 5, we develop tagline, logo, messaging, all of that type of information. Attributes, I'll spend a little bit of time explaining a little bit further what I mean by attributes. The unique essence of the brand, how it's different, how that position is uniquely distinct from other businesses in the industry, your competitors. What are those adjectives? And we always like to look for adjectives. Is it innovative? It can be anything. And sometimes we use analogies. If the clients are having a hard time coming up with adjectives, we'll draw a picture of, or we'll have them tell us what image comes to your mind when you think about your business. Anything. It could be anything in the world. Based on all this research and all you've discovered about what you're doing, what you hope to do with your business in the future, what is the one image that comes to mind? Does anybody have an image in mind right now for your business? Just an icon, something that represents the way you feel about your business, the essence of how it can be really special in this world. Is there an image? Anybody?
I've got a logo of Reshaping Mother Nature.
Reshaping Mother Nature.
For topiaries.
Okay, Reshaping Mother Nature. So then, what are adjectives that come from that?
Beautification, serenity.
Serenity, you said? Okay, that's a good one.
Sense involving. Involving
Senses.
Sight, sound, touch, smell.
Okay.
And it could be taste as well, because some of them could be.
We've got beauty, serenity, touching all senses, festive. That's great. Now, you couldn't say that about a restaurant necessarily. It's distinct for you, not that a restaurant would compete with your business, but another shop that might do floral or something like that. I think you've got some real distinct attributes here that you can assign to that brand and create some nice visual and some nice messaging around, which is great. That's a lot of fun. So a brand, just to kind of back up a little bit, is not necessarily a logo. It is absolutely not a logo. A brand is a perception, and I don't know if you all have covered this already, but your brand is not even what you want it to be yet, because it's not out there yet. Your brand is how you are perceived by your target groups. Now, as a startup business, you have the unique and amazing opportunity to shape that brand from the very beginning if you pay attention to it. If you don't, it's going to shape itself with or without your involvement. Customer experiences, any exposure people have to your company will shape a brand. It's going to happen. But when you take an active role in influencing that perception from the very beginning, doing what you just did, what exactly is this serenity, the senses, all of this? What does this look like? And every time people experience your brand, they think that and they understand that. If your brand is executed well, they'll get it. And when people say, what do you do? That message, when you boil it all down, that pitch, it should say those things. And so whether it's through a website or a brochure or an ad or a poster or whatever you put out there, consistency in brand is key. That's how you shape perception. That's how you create your brand. It's not a logo. It's not a color palette. It's all of those things put together. And the other thing about brand is that I think is really wonderful where you all are right now, because you're just starting your businesses, is that you want to project an image of the company you wish to be in the future. A lot of companies, when they think about brand, well, we are this, we are that, we do this, and we're unique this way, and they want to build a brand on that. But how do you want it to be 3 to 5 years from now? That's the brand you want to project, because that's where you're going. You can't stop the clock. You're going to get there. How do you want to be perceived when you're there? And that's the image you portray right now. So when you're thinking about your brand now, think about how you wish for it to be perceived in 3 or 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What does the future look like for your business? Make that a reality today, and it will also help you achieve it in the future, because you'll be believing that the whole while. And that's what will make it happen. So we talked a little bit about brand essence, what's unique, what's special, what's different, what sets you apart from others, direct and non-direct competitors. Carve out that space and own it. Make it memorable, make it interesting, and it will help you own mind share among your competitors with your target audience. There are so many businesses out there that don't pay attention to brand, and they just, they think what they think their brand is what it is. So if you can put out there what you want to be, how you want to be perceived, you're one step ahead of your competitors right there with consistency. Why does brand matter so much? Well, it's been proven that the best brands in any category can command a higher price. And they can do this because they project quality, professionalism, establishment, and trust, and consistency, which is really important to the customer experience. They will know that each time they use your brand, your product, your service, your company, there's a consistent experience, and they can trust that ongoing. So that allows you to build long-term relationships and be able to charge a little bit more, and nobody will ever even care. The sales and distribution channel, understanding the process, and that's kind of where we were going with this. And don't forget about the influencers either, not just the buyers, but what process do the influencers have to go through in order to refer you, in order to specify your product? Is there some type of requirement for that? Is there some type of process they have to go through in order to be able to do that? Learn what those processes are and make sure that you're there. So, are there multiple channels for sales? Is it viable to consider the internet, dealers, distributors, physical storefront, direct to consumer, mail, sales reps, home shows? I mean, there's just so many different ways to reach buyers these days. Which ones apply to your business? Which ones are realistic? Which ones do you want to include in your business plan? So that's an important part to think about as well. And then when you promote the business, this is where you go out and you tell the story. You tell it consistently. You tell it at every single touch point with consistency and in proper tone. And this is something that you will have to plan to invest in. And I know that you guys, starting up a new business is kind of scary. It's a risk. I mean, any time you start a new business, you're taking a risk. But if you've done this the way that you all are doing it with your plan and your research, it does minimize the risk when you have done your research, and you can validate a lot of your ideas and plans ahead of time before you invest money in it. But when you're doing your research, you'll discover the channels that are most appropriate for your business and reaching your audience. You'll discover if it's other dance studios or other extracurricular activities for kids. If you're marketing to kids who are involved in a lot of things after school, where are they? How do they get there? What opportunities are there at those places for you to have exposure and be creative with that? Offer to sponsor, the trophy ceremony at the baseball field to get in front of kids who like extracurricular activities. And be creative in your approach. You can do a lot of things yourself with little cost by kind of taking on your own public relations program. Have you all talked about public relations at all yet?
Not a lot, except for that it's important to keep the image of your PR just consistent with your business.
Mm-hmm. And anytime you have the opportunity to put yourself out there as a speaker somewhere or a subject matter expert with the newspaper, let them know what you're doing, let them know why it's different. If you receive any type of recognition, call them up, send them the information. They'll usually run it word for word if it's a local business. And that gives you added exposure, and it doesn't cost anything. It takes your time to think about it. But being involved in community organizations, doing volunteer work on boards, and really putting yourself out there in the community, meeting people, getting to know people, getting the word about your business out in other groups that will then spread the word as well. You can't just sit behind your cash register and hope people come, but get out there and be active in your community. When you make a big sale or solve a big problem or come up with some unique solution for a big client or a customer, tell the story, or ask them if they would tell the story. Maybe it's a newsworthy story for the newspaper. Maybe there's some human interest aspect to that story. If you donate your services at some point for a nonprofit or for a big community event, tell somebody about it. Tell the newspaper about it. If it has human interest appeal or newsworthy appeal, they will write about it. And then you get added exposure that way as well. And again, like we were talking about before, making sure that all of your marketing materials are consistent, meaningful, and professional looking. Some of the basics that you would probably want to consider, and I hate to even put a list out there because it's different for every single business. Public relations, we just talked about that. A logo that definitely represents the essence of your brand. Consistent use in colors and logo for your signage and all of the other pieces. You would definitely want consistency there. You would probably need some business stationery, and it might be different depending on whatever type of business you have. It might be a business card. Most people would probably need a business card, but it might be thank you notes for some business. It might be, you know, a brochure for other businesses. It would definitely probably be a website, I would imagine. Brochures and advertising. And advertising can be so many different things. It could be advertising on a bus. It could be billboard. It could be a banner at a ball field. It doesn't necessarily have to be large format print advertising, but it might be. So it can come in all shapes and sizes. But these are just some of the initial basics that you would probably want to think about with a startup business. I do have some final thoughts. As a small business owner, looking back on, you know, my experience and just sort of some kind of key lessons learned throughout the years, when you decide to take the leap, do it and don't look back. Don't second guess yourself. Don't question yourself. Don't say, what if, I should have. Forget about it. Learn your lessons and move forward. You're gonna learn your lessons. You're gonna stump your toe a few times. It's okay. Move forward and don't look back, and be happy and proud of what you're doing. You're working hard, you're a productive member of society, and you're making your dreams come true. How exciting is that? That's very, very cool. The next thing, I have all these out of order, but the next one I wanted to talk about was focus. Focus on your strengths. Your business should be about what you're great at, so do that thing that you do best. Make those strengths the core of your business. Make sure that you're always focused on those strengths being the core of your business, because if you get distracted and you get sidelined and sidetracked, it can kind of take your eye off the ball. So keep your focus in your business and what you do well. A couple of examples here. Coca-Cola, the brand Coca-Cola, is known to be a beverage company, right? PepsiCo, on the other hand, they are a beverage company, but they also own a lot of restaurants and a lot of other types of businesses that are not beverage related. So now, according to research, I think that was conducted last year, PepsiCo had $28.5 billion in sales. Coca-Cola had $16.2 billion in sales. So PepsiCo is a bigger company if you look at their sales than Coca-Cola is. However, Coca-Cola is worth $93 billion and PepsiCo is worth $44 billion because of the power of focus, because of what that brand stands for. Coca-Cola is the most valuable brand in the world. $93 billion, more than half. I mean, more than double of what PepsiCo is worth because of the focus. I think that's pretty incredible. That's a pretty incredible testimonial about focus. The other thing is GE. Does anybody know what GE is known for? But what are they known for? Do I hear crickets?
Used to be light.
Used to be
Stoves, appliances now.
light bulbs, stoves, appliances,
They also do,
Engines, jet engines.
jet engines,
plants.
nuclear plants. What the heck is GE known for? Well, GE has sold off hundreds of businesses in the past few years, cutting back and refocusing on their core because they used to be known for lights and appliances, and now nobody really knows what they're doing because they got involved in so many different things. They have diluted their brand. But fortunately for GE, they are an unfocused company with a really powerful brand because they've been around for 100 years. So that speaks to the danger of not being focused, but it also speaks to the power of a strong brand. The strength of their brand has carried them through some maybe bad decisions throughout the years, but they'll probably be okay because they have a really strong brand. So my 2 cents about focus there. The other thing is to be there. Be in your business. Be present in your business. Be active and personally invested in the success of your business. I can't tell you how important it is for you to be seen as the head of your business, as a small business owner. You are a huge part of your brand because you're the business owner. You created that brand. You emulate that brand. You talk about that brand. You are that brand, especially for the first few years. So you've got to be prepared to work hard at it and be seen in it, working in it, training people so that you can surround yourself, which I think is one of the next things I wanted to say, with good people. And don't be afraid to bring in people who are better than you are at what you do. That's the only way you're going to grow your business. Don't be up here and having everybody else down here. Bring them in. Let them carry you for a while. And they will. Give them opportunities. Challenge them to be successful. And they'll be inspired by that. So surround yourself with good people. Give them praise, give them lots of opportunities to grow and be challenged, and they'll help you grow your business, no doubt. And the last thing is take the punches. Learn the hard lessons, and you will. Admit your mistakes. Admit that you don't know everything. And you guys are here today, so you've already admitted that you don't know everything. But even after you get started, after you experience some successes, you're still going to encounter challenges, and you're still going to have lots of things to learn. Small businesses are always learning, growing, and changing in order to be successful, and that's what it's going to take to be successful in the 21st century because our world is changing so fast. You've got to be prepared to learn and change and grow and learn and change and grow, and it's just this vicious cycle, and sometimes it's painful because as you're learning, sometimes they're really